On November 6, 2005, Green Day performed their latest single, Jesus of Suburbia, live on UK's Top of the Pops, marking it as the longest performance of a single song in the entirety of Top of the Pops' run. An incredible feat for an American rock band hardly known in the UK, except for those already a fan of the genre. But it's hard to say how much of an impact this had on the band or alternative music as a whole. But on that fateful night, one 10-year-old boy's life changed forever. Mine. And now, 19 years later, Knocked Loose have broken new boundaries with their performance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. So today I wanted to break down why this performance with Poppy isn't just another show, but a huge milestone for metal and the hardcore genre, and just why it's so important to the scene. But first, a quick introduction. Formed in 2013, Knocked Loose are a hardcore band from Oldham County, Kentucky. Known for their ferocious breakdowns and unapologetic intensity, they've been redefining modern hardcore and building a dedicated fan base in the process, already accumulating 1.8 million Spotify listeners at the time of recording. Then there's Poppy, an artist who's impossible to describe. From pop to industrial experimental metal, her work constantly pushes and challenges the very idea of a genre. Together, these artists represent two distinct yet complementary facets of heavy music, and their collaboration on a song only solidifies that. And if you've seen both of these artists before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I was lucky enough to see Knocked Loose in a tiny room in Cardiff back in 2018, where I was kicked in the balls and threw up down the stairs of the venue. Then the next year, seeing them at Slam Dunk Festival, and the exact same thing happened again. If anything, it's a testament to their music. So why is this such a big deal? First off, mainstream exposure for heavy music is rare. Late night TV has traditionally been dominated by pop, hip-hop, and the occasional rock acts. But rarely do we see metalcore and hardcore artists get the same treatment. This performance bridges a gap between underground and mainstream audiences, showing that heavy music deserves to be here. Obviously, this isn't the first time a particularly heavy band has been shown the spotlight on late night television, and appearances like these have often marked a turning point for the scene. For example, when Slipknot played on Conan, or Evanescence appeared on The Tonight Show. These moments helped bring metal to a wider audience. I'm from the UK, so these kind of late night performances were always quite rare. In fact, the only equivalent I can think of off the top of my head is McBusted playing on the Graham Norton show back in 2015. However, I also think it's important to reflect on where heavy music was at the time. Yes, a band like Slipknot was certainly on the extreme side when it came to heavy music in a mainstream environment, but this is also around the same time when teenage American comedies would have soundtracks featuring exclusively pop-punk hits, or horror movies would be littered with new metal tracks. Even some of the biggest festivals around the world would play host to hundreds of alternative acts. I'm not saying this was the pinnacle of heavy music, but those same festivals today barely show a resemblance to what they were like 20 to 30 years ago. Knocked Loose and Poppy's performance could have a similar impact. In fact, we're already seeing it, with both artists already having played some of these big festivals. What makes this performance even more significant is how these artists represent evolution of heavy music. Knocked Loose embodies the raw, visceral energy of hardcore and metalcore, giving you an unapologetic, in-your-face sound. Meanwhile, even from her conception, Poppy pushes boundaries, blending metal with pop, electronic, and even performance art. Together, they're showing that heavy music isn't a stagnant and uniform sound. It's diverse, dynamic, and constantly evolving. I think that's what makes this performance so fascinating to me. This is a mainstream late-night talk show playing some really heavy music. This isn't like when Metallica played their butt rock on Jimmy Fallon. The closest we probably had before would be Turnstile, but even then, it is a vast difference between the two. Just from the announcement alone that Knocked Loose were performing, fans were already calling it a win for the metal and hardcore scene. What I think is more impressive is that Knocked Loose didn't get this opportunity by dulling their sound or watering down. If anything, they've done the opposite. They're louder, more ferocious, more weird. Let's not forget that Brian did a pig squeal on national television. It's also a reminder to the industry that heavy music has a thriving audience and deserves more mainstream opportunities. Of course, this hasn't come without some pushback. Immediately after the performance, there were reports of middle-aged suburban mums winding down to watch a bit of late night, only to be blasted with the sound of two millennials screaming "Suffocate." And even some people in the scene weren't too happy with it either, like this hardcore elitist, who said hardcore shouldn't be celebrating Knocked Loose being on Kimmel. It wasn't a victory for the scene. It's selling out of the subculture. I don't care how much money they got, they should have a backbone. And to be honest, I just think this guy's a cunt. 19 years ago, a 10-year-old boy fell in love with heavy music from watching Green Day on Top of the Pops. If that performance never happened, then American Idiot wouldn't have been the first album I ever bought, and my exploration into heavy music may not have even happened until much later in my life. Maybe not at all. Fast forward 19 years and maybe there's a 10-year-old kid out there now who has discovered their love for heavy music, all because of this performance. Not Loose and Poppy performing on Jimmy Kimmel Live isn't just a cool moment, it's a statement. It's proof that heavy music can thrive in spaces traditionally reserved for mainstream acts. And who knows, this could be the start of more metal and hardcore bands breaking into the mainstream. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I've been James, and I'll see you in the next one.